To actually have a function that lets our employees make suggestions in our module, we need to create a relationship or connection between the employee module and suggestions module. This means defining a connection between two database tables. The way to determine what kind of relationship it is going to be, we have to think about what our function actually does. In this case, we can say that one employee can make multiple suggestions, but one suggestion can only be linked to one employee. This is our starting point, and what this relationship is called is a one-to-many relationship. With that in mind, let's move on to our dictionary manager and search for the employee definition. Clicking on it, to the right side of our view, we can see that we have an option to configure our relationships. While it is possible to define the relationship from our employee suggestion definition, it is considered better practice to establish it from the side that is considered as one, which in this case is the one employee, than the many side, which in this case is the many suggestions the employee can make. Let's click on the plus button and select the one-to-many option, as well as the custom scope. The other options being a many-to-many, which is a situation where many things can be connected to many other options. A good example of this would be a company contacts relationship, where a company can have many contacts and many contacts can connect to many companies. The many-to-one relationship is just the inverse of our one-to-many relationship, except a bit more complicated since we have to individually make connections for each suggestion, and as we've said, there can be an enormous amount of suggestions, which is why we chose the one-to-many option. One-to-one is self-explanatory, as one item can only be connected to one other item and vice versa, and is rarely used. And finally, one-to-many polymorph is when we have a parent which can be connected to many types of tables, and instead of creating different tables for each type of content, we can just create one polymorphic relationship. Clicking the Add button will open up the next model, which prompts us to choose which table we are connecting to. So, let's find our employee suggestion table, click on it, and click on Next. We are taken to the representation of what our future relationship looks like. The system, as we can see, has already filled out all of the options that we had in mind. We can keep these options as they are, but we are going to need to provide some more for later usage. The left side is what the one in the one-to-many is, and we can see that the dictionary item left is already selected as ID. This is what allows us to access the value in the other table, which in our case is the suggestion table. The same needs to be provided to the right side, which is the many in the one-to-many relationship. Previously, we defined in our dictionary an employee ID, which we can now select from the drop-down menu. This means we are establishing the connection between the ID and in the employee table and the employee ID in the suggestion table, making them the same. Next, we need to add some labels for our links. We can add the labels that we defined ourselves or the ones that have already been defined. In the case that a label has not been created, we can simply create one by clicking on the plus button and going through the label creation model. So for our employee suggestions, we created an employee suggestions label. And for employee, there should be a label already created. But in case there isn't, as we've said, there's a plus button and one can make their own label from scratch. In this case, this is going to be the same label, but it is used in two different instances. Once everything has been filled out, we can add our relationship and activate it by clicking on the yellow light bulb and turning it green. In order to see our recently added relationship in our table, we must first reload our server, which we can do by going to our profile icon and clicking on the reload. This will open up a model that warns us that the server cache is going to be reset. If we click OK, it will reload the configurations. Which takes some time. The data has been reloaded. We can log out, log back in. Let's go back to the workbench. Look for our dictionary manager. Search for our employee suggestion definition. And on the right side, we have an option for fields, which neatly displays all the fields that are represented in our table. And we can see that employee ID has been added to it, as well as employee and employee name. The source being this.